Hi, everybody, and welcome to week 4. It's going to be a fun week. This week, we're going to look into a continued deep dive into legal issues facing HIM. We're really going to be looking at the idea of informed consent, what makes that up, what it really means, and how to achieve that in an equitable fashion within the health environment. For HIM 301, we don't have a whole lot that's different from the standard flow. I'll go ahead and show you my screen, and then we'll come back and circle in with Lisa for the English 301 component. All right, let me share it. All right, so for week 4, you have, it's pretty standard stuff here for the tasks. You're basically focusing on 4 objectives. Like I said, just continuing to look into the legal aspect of HIM. You're going to do a little bit of light reading from chapter 2, got a few articles, and then we've got that movie 55 steps that I talked about last week. That's going to really inform your paper that you're going to be writing. You can see we've got 2 assignments for this week. First is a series of essay questions. I think it's just 3 essay questions. Very minimal difficulty, I would say. It's just a matter of threading together the topics you're learning here in a coherent way. But I wanted to show you the written paper because that's a little bit more in depth. So for the written paper, it's going to be pulling in the concepts that you're learning in Lisa's class. You're really going to have to do some solid research here. It's going to be 2 pages in full APA format, and you're going to have to answer the 5 questions in here, okay? The idea here is that you're not just going to take the article that's provided or the reading, you're going to do extra research along the way to really bolster your mastery of the subject matter. So you're exploring the idea of what's informed consent, why is it important, the history of informed consent within the United States, how informed consent in the mental health is different or similar to informed consent in standard medical situations, and then what the future of informed consent might be. So that's where you're going to have to do a little bit of, I'd say, extra research, because you want to see, you don't necessarily want to look at future-based articles that were from 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I would say try to keep it within the last 5 years. That way you can get some real informed articles giving you a real glimpse into the future, because a lot of this stuff is driven by politics and administration. So we've had 2 recent administrations, with the Trump administration, Biden administration. Both of them had a pretty collaborative approach towards healthcare and ensuring patient rights are guaranteed. So there didn't seem to be much friction between the 2 approaches, which is a nice thing. So make sure that you look at the instructions on how to format your paper. It should be very standard from what you're doing for Lisa, and just a very simple APA format. So I think that should be it for week 4. So with that, I'll stop sharing. I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Okay, wonderful. Just before I get started, commenting on Jonathan's point about timely articles and dates of publication. I'm really glad that you mentioned that, Jonathan, because with the work that you're doing in the English section 2, definitely consider the dates and don't discount something on my side. I know it's different with him. Don't necessarily discount something that's older, but only use it in order to historicize or provide context to talk about what a policy used to be and now is, or to offer some history of the concern. But you don't want to use something from 20, 25, 30 years ago. Again, if you're talking about, concerns having to do with cancer care for undocumented workers or something, and you're consulting something from the 90s or even the early 2000s or even 2010. And I appreciate this point that Jonathan is making about administrations and changes. So it's not that you need something within the last 10 minutes always, and certainly certain kinds of research lend themselves to timeliness, right? Certain trade journals or certain newspaper articles, scholarly articles are typically coming out, a year after they're written or so, and books sometimes several years. So again, be careful with the content and how you're using it. Use anything, but use it with the date in mind. So I'm really glad that Jonathan mentioned that. Okay, let me share my screen then, and let's look at our content. Here we go. I hope I'm clicking on the right thing. No. All right. Backing up here. Sorry. All right. So sorry. Stop sharing and get to the right thing here. All right, sharing screen, going back to hopefully, okay, there we go. All right, scrolling down to week 4 then. And as we're up here though, let me remind you about those sample student assignments, which will be useful to you this week and in the coming weeks. Moving to module 4, week 4, and just want to briefly talk about what's in the textbook this week. Again, nice readable content, and it's still dealing with some of the generalities of writing and good writing, and particularly with purpose in mind, which I think is so important, thinking about what your purpose is. So sometimes when we think about good writing, in the humanities, we may be thinking about something that's very creative and maybe it's crisp and concise, but it's very delicately constructed. Delicacy in construction is useful, but we're more interested in clarity and concision in business writing. And so this idea of purpose is particularly thought-provoking and useful. I've got a link here that gives you some basics in a sort of nutshelled form on business letters, which is pretty specific. And then I'm going to have you discuss business letters and evaluate good writing, again, engaging with the textbook. Let's see, both of these discussion boards are engaging with the HIM content. So there'll be some overlap this week. And so it's, I think, nice and useful in the sense that looking at one article for Jonathan is going to help you, again, think about it in a new way in the work that you're doing in the English class. And we'll continue with that crossover between the two courses. And then, importantly, you've got assignment number 1 due at the end of the week. So I want to again point you to that sample assignment number 1, see what the student writer's doing, emulate what she's doing. She did a good job. Proofread carefully. If you need or want or alleviate some anxiety, show it to the writing center, get some feedback. And remember now with these, assignment 1, 2, 3, and 4, we're into sort of a larger chunk of the grade. Now, if you go back to the syllabus, you'll recall that as long as you're submitting it on time, that I will offer you the opportunity to revise it further. But you'll want to submit something that's really good because the revision is only worth a particular bounce up rather than, a C cannot become an A. So if you're looking for an A in the class and I'm looking to give you an A in the class, I want to help work with you to establish that A. So let me know if I can help you with anything, and that'll take us through week 4. And I will stop sharing.